Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Advancement Center, and welcome to the place of pure perfection as we connect and join each other to experience this moment together. We are traveling. We are most certainly traveling, and we've been traveling for eons to be where we are now, and we continue to travel past everything. And it's an amazing feeling to feel the walls go down, to feel the doors open, to feel yourself in this place where there's only perfection. And it's happening extremely fast because it's time, and the energies are supporting that. So I say again, we are traveling. Where we're traveling is up to you. But for me, I know that we are traveling to ourself, traveling to the one that we've always known, always felt, and watching that being appear before our eyes. I felt the other day as I sat out at a park, myself flying almost in the Superman pose. But I think I had two arms out, not the one arm, and just flying into people's fields, in and out so quickly that all they knew or all they could experience was a fragrance of me entering their field and aligning things in their body and then jetting out and smiling and flying off to someone else. This is how we can travel. And this is where we're going. And it's in that place of pure perfection that there's nothing resisting that movement. And the flow is happy and smiling and glad to have your company. I saw that we're traveling past so many limitations. And if you can feel me when I say that, there's not enough words to describe the feeling of what that feels like. Because we have all felt the limitations around our life and our world. And I saw that even the word spirituality, we have now dropped off. That it is a concept because we are spiritual and we are made up of so much that we can't even put into words. And spirituality came in to show you what you're not. It didn't come to show you what you are, because you never really needed anyone to tell you that. And I saw that all religions, which spirituality became, were created to tell you what you're not and to tell you how to become what you already are. So we just blow past that beyond any construct that would tell us what we're not and tell us how to be what we already are. It's like knowing I'm a man and someone says, let's create a word called manality, and we're going to show you that you're not a man yet, and we're going to tell you how to become a man. And you sit there and look and think, I think I'm a man. But that's how insane that logic is. But all those things end up being designed to control. And maybe that wasn't the intention. And there are certainly truths within all religions. And there is great wisdom. But somehow spirituality became another one. And they all have their own language that you must speak to make the grade, let's say. And there's nothing that you need to be other than yourself. I didn't go to church, but I went a few times along the way when I was younger. And I remember how differently people acted in church. And then when they came home or left church, they were a different person. And they might say to me, "What's up, David?" But in church, they say, "Hello, how are you, sir?" And I thought, well, I don't want to go there. You can't be yourself. So we're traveling. And each of us are taking ourselves to the place of pure perfection. And we are lighting the way for others without trying, but just by expressing and by glowing in the middle of things that have been put on mankind, like religion. So goodbye. I leave those constructs, and I make a way for you to leave them as well. I wrote these words that I'm going to share. We are traveling so far past everything we have ever lived in this physical plane to a destination that changes every second, to the desire of our heart, traveling to the place of pure perfection where the world of magic and miracles lives and the flow runs free. That place of pure perfection has both so-called good and bad circumstances. For most of the miracles that we share come from surpassing a so-called bad circumstance. If you don't know that you are in this place of perfection, then you react. It's like when you were a baby, no matter that your mother fed you like clockwork each time, you felt hungry and you screamed as if you had never been fed before, panicking like you would never be fed, when all along you were being looked after. Then one day your mother said, "Don't you know that I am always with you? Why are you screaming?" Until finally you are old enough and your mother says, "If you're hungry, go and get a cracker. You can now feed yourself." That's what this place of perfection produces. You can now heal yourself. You can see the folly of the dependency, and you can step past every piece of bullshit that was delivered to you about your lack of power, sovereignty, and magic. All lies, all bullshit, all the time. These are the main ingredients that are ingested that allow a human being to feel like a victim. And now we just destroyed those ingredients and ended that structure from continuing to exist. And we are traveling. I've been reading this amazing book, The Magic of Life by Robert Young, narrating it on YouTube. And I'm always taken to some incredible place because it's so relevant to life for each person. And so I'm going to read a couple passages or a few pages that I have read just recently. And for context, for people who haven't read the book, this is a story about a woman named Suzanne, a man named Bill, who met Simeon, who live out in the middle of nowhere, somewhere towards New Zealand, on a beautiful island, and who were friends when they were young. But Suzanne had married another, a man named Joe, who died a few years back out at sea. And they had 3 kids, Jamie, the oldest, maybe 7 or 8, Martha and Samuel. And Suzanne was at the end of her rope trying to manage and take care of the family until one day she decided to go and ask her friends for help. And then Simeon appeared and changed her life and changed Bill's life as he brought them together. And then he told them where they were going. And many people started to appear in their life, showing the orchestration of something that's happening to us that's bigger than we can see directly in front of us. That these people within their group of a few, which was getting larger, all had a piece of the puzzle, but no one had the full, except Simeon. And it was being delivered. And as it was being delivered, each one was changing and coming alive in their new life, and then beginning to see things about themselves, their own power, their own magic, their own sovereignty. So this section, Bill is learning about money because he's never known about money, and they're going to be leaving the island. They all always just bartered as he was a fisherman, and they would barter for food and clothes. And now he had to learn about money. And his friend Simon Guthridge was helping him, but it was difficult for him. And then finally, he had an understanding of how money works. And they all relaxed and had a laugh. And that's where I'll begin telling the story. The joy around the table was such that it felt like an electric current passed between them all, and it grew into excitement, then into laughter. Martha started it all by giggling, and then Samuel leaned over to tickle her. Then Jamie jumped around laughing. Suzanne soon followed, then Simon, and then Bill felt the seriousness dissolve in his body, and he joined in as well. It was one of the best feelings Bill had ever felt. It seemed like everything rolled up into one, and his love for everyone simply blossomed within him. He could feel the energy rising in his body. It was a special energy that he had never experienced before. He could feel his hands beginning to tingle and burn slightly. It continued, yet he felt so good. Soon everyone started to look at him, and he had no idea why, but he was feeling better and better every minute. The energy he could feel fascinated him because he had never felt anything like it. He looked over at Suzanne, and her face had changed. It looked so mellow and loving. He looked around at Simon, and Simon was looking back at him with his mouth open. Jamie came up alongside Bill and put her arm around him. He could feel everything within Jamie, and he felt the brilliance of her energy as it mingled with his. It was as if they were both alight. Suzanne's mouth opened in amazement, and Bill knew that there was something very special occurring. He looked down at Jamie, and he could see a slight glow around her. He wondered if it was the same for him. He immediately felt the energy around him, and he knew it was the same. He felt so normal and so at home. He allowed the energy to increase, and he became more and more comfortable with the whole world. Suddenly, he realized that he could see more things in the room, more than just the people sitting around the table. He wondered what that was all about, but he wasn't surprised. He could see outlines of people, and they seemed to be coming into focus the more his energy rose. Then there across the room, as clear as any other person, was Jamie's fairy. He looked down at Jamie, and she looked over at the fairy and then back to Bill. She said, "See, Bill, my fairy does exist." "She most certainly does, Jamie," replied Bill. Jamie let go of Bill and skipped over to the corner to play with her fairy. As she did so, Bill's energy began to fade a little, and his vision started to return to normal. Within a few moments, he was standing there with all sensations gone, but feeling totally comfortable. "Bill, do you know what just happened?" asked Suzanne, very gently and quietly. Bill did not feel like answering or responding to anything. He was in such a mellow space. He really did not want to return. "Just leave him for a while," Suzanne advised Simon. "We'll just all sit quietly for a spell. We mustn't disturb him too quickly." Suzanne and Simon sat there for what seemed like hours while Bill gradually returned to his normal consciousness. Suddenly, Bill spoke. "Wow, what was that?" He was so bright and wide-eyed. He looked backwards and forwards at everyone and said, "That was an amazing feeling. You two looked a bit funny. What did you see?" Suzanne walked over to Bill and wrapped her arms around him. "Bill, you've got no idea who you are, do you?" "What do you mean?" asked Bill. "The person we saw here a while ago definitely didn't come from here," she answered. "The person that we saw in you was such a majestic being, somebody who we have never seen before on this island, somebody very, very special." Puzzled, Bill quickly turned to Simon and asked, "Do you know what she's talking about, Simon?" "I most certainly do," answered Simon. "We all saw it, and now we know why you had the ability to heal Jamie and why Jamie and you work so well together." When Jamie came alongside you, she started to glow just like you did. Together, you made quite a pretty sight. Bill was very surprised, but he felt good about it. He looked across the room at Jamie and saw the freedom in her movements. He looked down at Samuel. His smile was so gentle and loving, and then over to Martha, who had her vision fixed on Bill. He looked at Suzanne and said, "Wow, everything's different." "It most certainly is different. It's different for us as well," said Simon. "I think the whole world has changed for us all in the last few minutes. I'll be looking forward to seeing what happens tomorrow." Bill had no idea of what Simon was talking about because he had actually forgotten everything. He was too involved in the moment. When Simon repeated, "Bill, we just have to see what happens tomorrow," Bill realized that he must be missing something. He said, "I'm sorry, Simon. What was that again?" "I'm sorry to bring you back, Bill, but I have to tell you right now that you've got to know that there's something special happening tomorrow," replied Simon. Bill found himself in an unusual place where it was necessary to fit from one world to another, and he immediately recalled Simon's earlier statement. He stood quickly, took a deep breath, and allowed the change to happen. His consciousness was filled with the full story that had taken place earlier that day. He saw the picture of the meeting with Willie Broltage, and he shook his head. "Wow, that's better than a stiff drink, Simon. That really shakes you up." So I'm going to stop right there in that section. Bill ended up healing Simon, who had asked him to leave and was basically having a heart attack. And Suzanne got the message that something was wrong and sent Bill in, and he put his hands on Simon, on his chest, and he corrected the pulse, and he corrected his heart. And he did it without a thought that it was something he couldn't do. So that is who we are. And once again, we're traveling. And now the next thing I want to share is Bill now meets someone named Willie, who is a entrepreneur, owns a boat shed, builds boats, and ran into Bill while fishing. But it was no coincidence because Simon needed Bill. There was something in Bill when he met him that he knew they needed to connect. And Bill needed Willie, because Willie was going to provide something that would allow them to leave the island and make the move to the next step that was being orchestrated in the background. So here's that conversation between Bill and Willie. Willie soon had lunch prepared, and they both sat down and quietly and enthusiastically devoured the entire meal. They both finished around the same time, and as they sat back and started to sip on their coffee, they both felt extremely comfortable in each other's presence. Bill's confidence had risen enormously, and so when he leaned back after he had sipped the coffee, he asked, "Well, Willie, what do you have in mind?" "I'm not sure, Bill, but I know it's time to get things moving again, but this time in a different direction, and somehow I know your input can make a difference," said Willie. Bill listened intently and nodded his head at Willie as Willie finished his sentence. Willie continued, "I have all of this equipment, lots of know-how, a lot at my fingertips, and I know how to make money, but I don't know what to do with it. I really don't have the drive to do what I did before. I don't want to go running backwards and forwards in the middle of the night, taking contraband to different places. I don't want to have to fight with people to get what I need. I already have everything that I need, and all of this stuff just sitting here is no use to John or me." John was his partner. John's boat is sufficient for him and he doesn't need those. There's no market for these boats in this area. I probably could sell them somewhere else, but then all I'd end up with is a little more cash, and I really don't know what to do with it. Somehow, when I saw your boat and I saw how you cared for it and how well you handled it and how comfortable you were with your life, I knew that I had to have some of that. What I want to do is some sort of deal with you, Bill, so we can work together. I know that you've got something behind you that will inject what's needed into my business. And I know that I have all of the resources you need to produce what you want for your life. Please don't ask me to explain all of that. It's just something that I know. Bill nodded slowly as he took it all in. I kind of have the feeling, Willie, that I sort of know what you're talking about, but I'm not sure what direction I'm going in. So I'm not really sure how all this can come about. There are a few things, though, that I'd actually like to talk to you about. What say I just sort of babble on and see what happens? That's fine, said Willie. That's just what I need. Bill sat back and looked into the familiar space out into nowhere where he always found that special connection, where things seemed to come to him without any effort. As he looked into that space, he went on, Willie, my main aim at the moment is to make sure that my family is well looked after. Even though I'm not married at this stage, I have a family and I'll be married soon. Anything we do must take that into account. I also want to do something for the people of the island. I'm not sure what I can do, but I know that it's not a matter of winning them anything. It's a matter of leading them out of the dark. Somehow, I don't feel it's dark, but I know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and I seem to be the one who is leading our small part of the island towards something, though I don't know what it is. I could tell you had a lot of stories about what's been happening to me, but basically, what's happening is both Suzanne and I are being led on a daily basis by Simeon. Simeon is the spirit or entity or whatever who appears from time to time. He's a very special character who looks after the island. Willie kept nodding as Bill continued. Simeon seems to be very interested in what we're doing, and he's showing us many, many things. He's showing us that we have the abilities that we didn't know we had, and he's also supporting us in making sure that we do manage to eat. He's making sure that Suzanne and I are in total contact with each other at all times, and he's also the one who makes the arrangements for me to meet with Henry Olson. He pulled Willem in alongside to teach us more about the world, and he arranged for Carmel Roberts to pass on information to Suzanne. All the time, he seems to be controlling what's happening, and I'm sure he controlled our meeting, explained Bill. Willie was so eager to get a word in, so he waved his hand in front of Bill to get his attention, and Bill's focus came back as he looked into Willie's eyes and said, I'm sorry, Willie, I was a little away from here then. That's great. I do want you to go back there, said Willie, but I just wanted to tell you that's the same character who talks to me. It's got to be. How did you know his name was Simeon? Suzanne was told, answered Bill. Wow, I've never known his name. He talks very clearly, doesn't he? Said Willie. Bill grinned. He sure does. That's all I had to say, said Willie. Keep going, Bill. Bill sat back once again and looked back into that space. And sure enough, he knew Simeon was there. So he continued. Willie, it's not long before I have to leave the island, though. I will be back. I have to go. I don't know why that is, but to be able to leave the island, I have to know a lot more about how money works. And somehow I know that what I've got in my pocket is really important to you. Right now, I'm being told to actually show you. Bill put his hand in his pocket and pulled out the gold coin. Willie's eyes opened wide and they began to sparkle. He was about to say something, but Bill put his hand up to stop him. Bill continued, Willie, I know you have some sort of history where this means something special to you, and I know that somehow it's going to mean a lot more after what I have to say. Simeon has arranged for this to come to us through Simon Guthridge, and this is just one of many. But one of the conditions of having this is that we understand how it works and that we know what we're doing before we do anything with the coins. Simeon now tells me that we'll never lose the coins, but they will be our security. I don't know what that means, but I feel that you know, Willie. Simeon's now telling me that we should talk more about what we think we might be able to do so that he can guide us into knowing the reality of our connection. Bill was starting to feel extremely comfortable in passing on Simeon's words. He relaxed a little more and said, Willie, Simeon feels that you've been holding up a bit of a barrier between him and yourself for a while now. He'd like to let you know that he's still around and that what happened to you and to John was meant to happen, and that what has happened to the Broltage fortune was also meant to happen. It had to disappear so that it could come back in another form. Willie's face looked very serious when he heard that. Bill continued, how's it going to come back is not really clear at this point, and we're not able to get together and figure anything out. But Simeon tells me that it will come and it will come fast. Also, the fortune won't be stored. It will be useful and it won't be harsh like it was before. It will be enjoyable and thrilling. He says that many people will gain, not just a few who were digging in and withdrawing whatever they could before. Willie's frown began to disappear because he'd worked so hard over the past years. He didn't want to do the same again. He didn't want to go into rebuilding what they called the Broltage fortune. He didn't need it. Bill could feel what was happening and said, I'll ask Simeon if he's got any more information for us. That's fine, agreed Willie. Bill sent the message out to Simeon through his mind and received an immediate answer. Simeon's reply came, just continue day by day, step by step, and we'll make sure you know what's happening each moment. Don't look too far ahead and don't be concerned about planning. If we tell you what's to happen in the future, it's not so that you can do anything about it. It's so that you have a rough idea at this stage what will happen in the future. It's only done to make you comfortable, but also remember that if we tell you something now, you'll see it differently at the time it happens. So be comfortable and work together and make sure that you include the resources that I've put there for you. Simeon addressed Bill. Bill, remember Simon Guthridge and Willem are there to direct you and how everything will work. Bill had almost forgotten where he was sitting. He had almost forgotten that Willie was in front of him. He was feeling connected to that marvelous awareness that came whenever Simeon was close. And when Simeon started to withdraw, Bill felt a little sorrow. When he looked at Willie and found that Willie was feeling the same, he leaned over and patted Willie on the shoulder. Looks like we're being looked after, Willie. Willie's eyes were moist. He couldn't speak. He waited in silence for a moment before looking at Bill. Wow, that's all I need. I think we're okay now. How about we have another cuppa and then we'll talk some more. It's incredible. I'm sure you saw your life in some of those words. I always see mine. Almost forgot I was doing a broadcast. And now I'm going to read this finally. The light has come into the world. The light has come, once again hidden in plain sight, and only those that have eyes to see and ears to hear can recognize it. The vibration of the light has always been the same, true and undeniable, every time it has appeared. I have been a witness of this light in every incarnation, for I have always been with the light, and it has always been my great pleasure to support the light by living a life that demonstrates that it is here. The light has come, and it is here at the perfect time in the expansion and growth of the human entity and of human consciousness. It comes without a personal agenda. It comes without regard for itself, for its purpose is to shine the way to a life of pure perfection. It does not give you instructions on how to get this life, but instead it delivers a picture that shows you that you are already there. Each incarnation of the light comes with the accumulation of the light that existed in the incarnations that came before. So each time it appears, it is greater than the time before. A presence that has been preparing to arrive for eons, orchestrated by the Father of the light and supported by all who have always known what the light would do. It has come to lead all life to the magnificence of itself, even as it has been resisted in every incarnation by those both near and far, for the light is always accompanied by the dark, and the dark must play its role just as the light must play theirs. All are part of the light. Nothing is above it. Nothing rules it. Since everything exists within it, it does not exist within anything. It is eternal. It is absolutely complete and so needs nothing. It is utterly perfect, light. It is without boundaries. Nothing exists outside of it to border it. It cannot be investigated. Nothing exists apart from it to investigate it. It cannot be measured. Nothing exists external to it to measure it. It cannot be seen, for no one can envision it. It is eternal, for it exists forever, and it is inconceivable. As we are led further and further into the light by the light, the darkness has no place to hide, and the shadows slowly begin to disappear, leaving a brightness that cannot be looked upon, but only felt. As we move further, we begin to be able to see the light as the shadows from our own darkness disappear. Soon there is no longer any place for the dark to hide, and we can stare into the light and see its glory. For the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Now we will be in the light just as the light has always been in us. It was once said of the light that if you see me, then you also see the Father. And now we add to that statement by saying, I am the light. If you see me, you also see the Father, and now you also see yourself. Just remember all the times of great change of consciousness on the earth, and remember that you and the light were there. This is one of those times, for the light has always come so that you may have life and have it more abundantly. It is with great honor, respect, and gratitude that I bear witness to the light and to the light in everyone. And now I raise a glass with you all as we celebrate the presence of the light and all the amazing places it is leading us to. So it is with a smile on my face and lightness in my heart that I say cheers, for the light has come into the world. And we are traveling, and you are in the light of pure perfection, where there is only perfect life, perfect health, and a magic future. Thank you.